evening. And this is your first episode of Curing Racism. My name is Paz Simpson, the happiness engineer, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Paul Hoyt. Hey, Paul.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, and
Always good to see you, Paz.
yes, sir. And in Curing Racism, this is the best 20 to 30 minutes online when we will spend every Friday taking on big issues where we're going to turn mountains back into molehills. So I thank you, Paul, for joining me on this journey of curing racism because something that any one of us can do alone.
Mhm. Amen to that. Well, it's always my pleasure to work with you, Paz. I kind of consider myself to be an accidental activist. And the accidental activist, as people will read in the forward to the book, was, a couple of events that happened in my life that opened my eyes up to the challenges of racism in the United States. And certainly one of those was meeting you at a business conference 10 years ago.
And it changed my life, right? Because one of the things I learned, and this was what it looks like to be dedicated to a cause. You know, curing racism became our baby, but it was your fathering thought, right? That allowed us to build something that is now a movement, right? This isn't just a book, right? This is the beginning of movement. This is the beginning of change, and it started with you, right? And that's so important. A lot of times people ask, how did curing racism start? I said, Paul fell in love with a silly man named Paz and made it his mission to me up. So I thank you, for starting this movement and allowing me to co-found this movement.
It was my pleasure, and it was, kind of a calling. It's one of those things that I didn't so much choose to do it as it just kind of happened. I was always one of those kids who just asked why. I'm sure I drove my mother crazy saying, why, mommy, why, mommy, why, mommy? And when I met you, and found you to be such a wonderful guy to hang with and to be around with such incredible, joyful, positive energy and being the happiness engineer, I just asked why. Why doesn't everybody love Paz? Where does this thing called racism come from? Why did slavery happen? When did it start? Why does it end? Does it still end? What's the impact? And the book was a result of us discovering the answers to all of those questions and discovering the causes of racism. And, I've said this to you many times. I believe firmly that if you really understand the causes of racism, what we human beings do consciously and subconsciously that causes that to occur naturally in every society around the world, when you truly understand the causes, the cures become obvious. And the cure begins with the subtitle to the book: one conversation, one connection, one heart at a time.
I love that you said that. And I love that you articulate have come or have identified the cause of racism. I think a lot of time, and what we see in many AI programs and many things of the world, is that most people treat the symptoms of racism. I think the symptoms not actually getting to the root cause in this book, to a place where they can make lasting solution, not just
Hey,
amongst themselves.
Paz,
Yes.
you broke up significantly. We didn't get those last couple of sentences that you said at all.
No problem. I will say it again. One of the things I realized is that by not addressing the root cause, most programs tend to get it wrong because they're addressing symptoms. You know, that's like
Yeah.
most people addressing violence as the root cause being poverty most times. We will address gang violence, gun violence, and all of the things around it instead of getting right to the root cause so that we can create real significant change. I think with this book, we are able to identify the root cause. So not only can they make significant change with us, but they can identify it so that they can make significant changes on their own. What are your thoughts, Paul?
Well, I'm going to dig into that whole cause and effect and how understanding the cause can help us make the cures seem obvious. But if you've got an issue with digestion, your stomach's upset all the time, and you go get some tests, and the doctor says, "Hey, you're allergic to peanuts, or you're allergic to milk," then once you know the cause of your problems, the cure becomes obvious. Stop doing that stuff. And that happens in so many ways. When we go to our doctors, we go to our specialists and say, or go to a therapist, and the therapist says, this is the source of your problem. This is the reason you're having that symptom. Sometimes, a lot of times, just understanding that can open up the door to the cure. And sometimes it's instantaneous, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to reframe your perspective. But once you know that, oh, this is why I'm afraid of spiders, this is why I hate dogs, this is why I'm scared of the water, this is why my stomach is upset when I eat these foods. When we know why, we can figure out what to do to overcome that. And that's exactly what we talk about in Curing Racism.
I love it. I love that we are able to create situations for educations, right? I think that is the most important, you know, thing that I think this book allows us to do, to allow people to have educated conversations, not just one based on someone's opinion, because you don't have to believe myself and you don't have to believe Paul, but you can see that we did real research in order to come up with a sound theory that you can get behind.
Amen. And I think in some way, this lets people off the hook a little bit. There's a portion of it that says you're really not responsible for being racist in the first place, but it is your responsibility to cure it. It is your responsibility to overcome it. But having that disease in the first place is something that kind of naturally happens to us as human beings because of our tribal instinct and because of our cultural conditioning in a lot of cases. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to let you off the hook because it's not your fault that that you got that disease in the first place. But now that you know the cause of the disease, it is your responsibility to embrace the cure.
I love that. I love that, because it's easy to point the finger, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you all suck, right? It's easy to point the finger. It's a lot more, I think it's a lot easier to digest when someone says you're not wrong, you just weren't totally right, and you were taught incorrectly, right? You may have been misled in some form or fashion, like the article that we read today, which I think may be the topic of next week's show. Uh, but there are ways. I think Dr. George Fraser says it the best. An intelligent man is someone who can learn, unlearn, and relearn again, right? This book allows people to realize what they've learned so that they can unlearn and relearn again, a way to build bridges, create connection, and really community. I'm blessed to say that even though I am a dark skinned chocolate man, I have, family members that look like all sizes, races. I wouldn't call Paul any less of my brother than I would call anyone else who I've helped in.
Paz, you broke up again. Your internet connection isn't what we love for it to be. I'd love for you to repeat those last couple of sentences because you broke up.
No problem. I said one of the things I just with it allows us to create bridges so that we can no longer make excuses that is hard, so that we can our we can define families and who is our brothers and sisters.
Well, Brother Paz, the internet connection dropped for a second. I think he'll come back, and here he is.
Yes,
Are
I
you back with
apologize.
us?
Yes, we are having terrible technology issues, but it's okay. But I said, family, what this book allows us to do is redefine what family is. Because family isn't just blood, right? Family are the people that you choose to love and invest in. And that's what
Yeah.
I think we build.
And I'm going to do one more thing here to let people off the hook just a little bit too, when it comes to dealing with and addressing the whole causes and solutions to racism, and that is that both you and I were at least slightly racist in our youth until, and in the forward to the book, in your forward and in my forward, we both tell the stories about how we came to overcome that through the connections that we had in our lives. You with a lovely white lady who took you in, and was your bonus mother for a while, and me with connections with a lovely little dark skinned baby and a guy like you. So we both were victims of that disease early in our life until circumstances came upon us that allowed us to see through that and heal it. And so if you're a young person, if you feel like that you might be a little bit racist and you're wondering about that, again, it's the circumstances of life that cause us to be that way. And now you have the opportunity, and I would say, yes, now you have the responsibility of accepting the cure, that now that you know the cause of the disease.
I love that. Right? You have the opportunity of accepting the cure now that you know the cause. That is so powerful. What I think many of the books, the movies that have come prior to us have done is they forgot to understand the why, right? To figure out that real why, not just one that's based on one that we want to put into a box that keeps us separated, but a real why that allows us to get together. So I think
Yeah.
that, we have allowed ourselves to really go back to our root cause when we start about tribal instinct, right? And the need to survive, right? And how we have evolved many ways in technology, but we have not evolved many ways mentally and emotionally in the same speed that technology has been moving. So I think that this gives people an understanding and a bridge to find their way, whichever way that may be.
Yeah, and Paz, I'm usually a pretty cheerful and positive person, and I try to remain optimistic as much as possible. But racism is just a subset of a much larger problem that we face as human beings, and that is the problem of tribal conflict in so many other ways. And as you just said, tribal conflict, I think, is the biggest threat to the survival of humanity. It's not
Mm-hmm.
climate change. It's not an asteroid hitting the planet. It's tribal conflict. It's that our ability to kill each other is advancing very, very rapidly, much, much quicker than our ability to get along. So curing racism is the first steps, because when we can overcome and see through those superficial differences that divide us, we can discover the common values that unite us, and we can learn to live in a much more peaceful, harmonious world.
Yes. And I think those are all so key. And I wanted to stop what you said about us being able to learn how to kill faster than we're learning how to love, especially with things like artificial intelligence. There have been
Mm.
people already trying to program artificial intelligence to do more harm. Just that there are some people that are programming artificial intelligence to do more good, right? There are more there's more opportunity at this time, right, for you to not only be an individual, but to really define what tribe you belong to, right?
Yeah.
Are you proud to be a nerd? What are you? Who are you? How do you define yourself? And what groups do you gravitate to?
Yeah, let's invite everybody listening to this podcast, everybody who read the book, is join our tribe. Join our tribe of black and white brothers and brown and whatever color there is, of people who have learned to see through those superficial differences, who have learned to make heartfelt connections with people who don't look like us, talk like us, dress like us, or even think like us. That we've looked through those and we've found the values of loving our family, of wanting to live a healthy and happy life, of wanting to live at peace with everybody else, as common values that unite us all. So join our tribe. We would love to have you and embrace you, and we'll give you a great big virtual hug, and who knows, maybe even a physical hug when we meet in person.
Yes. We are the tribe of Namaste, right? A tribe that we can salute the deity in you, right? The God in you, no matter what your color, no matter what your creed is, no matter what your size is, no matter anything, right? We can see and embrace the greatness in you, right? I think Les Brown put it best, right? He says, I can see the greatness in you because I embrace the greatness in me,
Mhm.
right?
I love
And
it. The greatness in me embraces and sees the greatness in you. That's a really powerful one. I hadn't heard that before. Well,
yeah,
I'm happy to be doing this podcast with you. In coming episodes, we're going to be having conversations with other people. We'll be talking more and more about the research and the principles and the truths that we have discovered, in the creation of curing racism. We'll give a lot more encouragement and support to you to have those heartfelt connections, those conversations with people who you perceive to be in those other tribes, to set apart your differences for a few minutes and just take a few minutes to explore the common values. Whether they're Republican or Democrat or Muslim or Jew or white or black or Hispanic or whatever tribe you perceive them to be, have those conversations about common values that create a foundation of respect with each other. And then you can have the courage, then you can have the wisdom when you have that strong foundation to have those conversations that matter.
yes. And this 20 minutes went by fast. So we're going to be continuing to give you all kinds of topics, all kinds of discussions, so that you can join us in curing racism so that you can bring us in your homes, in your workplaces, in your schools, so that you can be more, right, involved in making a difference in your family, in your community, in your city. Let us be that candle that lights another candle.
Love it.
Paul,
Love it. Love it.
yes, sir. So we will see you next week. But make sure that you go to curingracism.com so you can see how you can get more involved. So you can figure out how we can bring our workshops, our leadership workshops, our corporate workshops, our family workshops to your city, to your town. So you can get a copy of the book so that you can decide what you can do in order to be part of the solution. Paul, last words are yours, bro.
Oh man, the last words are mine. Well, I'll end it like I end a lot of my meetings out there that says that I believe in you. Until we meet again, be brave, be strong, be wise, and as much as you possibly can, love everybody and everything all the time. Love you, Paz. Love you, everybody. Good
Love
night.
you guys.